Hello and welcome to AMASH in America. We're here at the 22nd International UFO Conference, and this is taking place in Arizona. And we're here now with Bob Brown, and Bob Brown was the founder of this fantastic, iconic conference, and he's come all the way to Arizona to be here, see the conference, and to tell us a little bit about what inspired him. Bob, welcome.
Well, thank you.
Can you tell us what first got you started on this road of creating this fantastic conference?
Well, yeah, we probably have to go back to my childhood, where it all began.
That's okay.
No, I'm jesting a little bit there. Let me correct one little thing you said there.
Okay.
I am the founder, but there were two of us that founded the International UFO Congress. Wendell Stevens.
Oh, the wonderful, late, great.
Yes,
Stevens.
and myself founded the event. Now, after the first 4 years, Wendell said, "Bob, I can't afford to lose any more money. Okay? I will continue to help you till my dying day, but I cannot lose another penny. So if it's going to continue, it's going to be on your shoulders." Okay? So Wendell continued to be my partner and my mentor and my best friend in the world throughout all of it, but from that point forward, financially it was on my shoulders to continue it.
Well, you've done an amazing job. So what was it about this field that got you involved? Have you had experiences yourself?
I have seen things, yes, of course. And look, this idea that there could be something else out there, there could be somebody stopping by and tapping us on the shoulder and saying, "Hello, we're here." Okay? There's nothing more fantastic and incredible in life.
I think it's the most important thing to explore.
It is the most important thing. There is nothing. Everything else pales in importance to the fact, I said fact, that we are not alone in the universe. Here's a question I pose to people, okay? Do you agree that the universe is infinite? Most people will say, well, yeah. The farther out our scientists look, we're looking out there gazillions of light years now.
Yeah.
The farther we look, we find more existence, more creation.
Yeah.
What is the possible reason of creating an infinite universe? For me, it's a simple answer. There's only one possible reason: infinite life. It's everywhere.
So what was the driving force then behind the setting up of the conference? Was there something to do with Wendell's experiences?
No, not directly in any way. I had the strangest event ever happen to me ever in my life. We have to go back about 26, 27 years ago. Forgive me, it's a while back. I can't keep it exact. Somewhere around that time frame. Back then, I was mostly in the film business, and I would go to the Cannes Film Festival, the MIPCON actually, every year, buying and selling films.
So we're around the 80s, are we at this time? A bit earlier?
Yeah, let me see. Whatever 26 or 7 years ago would be, yes, that would put us about there. And so I'm at the Palais, the second day of the festival. They have a giant party at the Palais, which is on the other side of the bay, and it's a giant set of buildings, pavilion buildings with terraces connected, and there's 6,000 people from the convention that are here at the Palais at this party.
Right, okay.
And I'm walking through the crowd with a friend of mine, and we're talking film business, of course. What else? And as I'm walking through the crowd, a woman works her way across our path, and as my eyes fall on her and she's going across our path, a voice talked in my head. Now, not exactly like you and I are talking now, not exactly like that, but clearly and distinctly, a voice talked in my head, and it's the first and only time this has ever happened to me. And I guess I'm easy because it changed me fundamentally when this occurred.
I mean, was this, can I just ask you about the voice?
Yes.
Did it have a gender to it? Was it
No.
familiar?
It was genderless, but what it said was a very simple statement. You must talk to this woman. You must talk to this woman. It repeated and repeated and repeated. And so we walked across the terrace, we reached the next pavilion building, and I said goodbyes to my friend. He realized I wasn't there anymore, and I wasn't. And because this is going off in my head, and I'm panicking, I'm freaking out. I didn't know what was going on. And so the next thing I remember, I'm gulping a liquor drink. There's bars all over. And I'm gulping a liquor drink, and I'm walking in circles with this going off in my head. And I said, okay, I'll talk to her. And it stopped. It was like somebody hit a light switch. Boom. It stopped. And so now I'm panicked because how am I going to find her? It's over 6,000 people at this party. And so, okay, I'll talk to her. I got to find her. So I retraced my steps. I think it was about here where she crossed, and I walked through the crowd, worked my way through the direction she was going. I got to the edge of the terrace, and there's tables along the Mediterranean at the edge of the terrace. There's tables, and she's sitting there. This woman is actually sitting down, and she's talking to two men. And I said, oh my God, what am I going to do? How am I going to? I can't just walk up to this woman and say, I got to talk to you. I don't know who she is. I have no idea who she is. Never seen her in my life.
Quite a challenge then.
Quite a challenge. So I said, okay, I'm just going to ease my way up to them, and I'm just going to listen to what they're saying. So I do that. And lo and behold, they're talking about these young men's next film project, which, if they get the funding, is going to be a documentary on the 20th anniversary of the Concorde supersonic airliner. They want to do this documentary. And so I said, thank you so much. What an incredible way to be led to these guys, because these are the kind of people I'm here to meet, right? So I turn around. Geez, I couldn't help overhearing what you guys were talking about. Forgive me. Here's my card. I'm with World Aviation Video, and we really would love to talk to you about North American distribution of this film if you make it. Okay? So we talk shop for 15 minutes or so, and these guys go on and take off, and now I'm left with this gal, right? Very personable, intelligent, nice-looking young lady. So we're talking, mostly shop. We're hanging out. We have some hors d'oeuvres. We have some wines. And then we look at each other, I don't know, 20 minutes, 30 minutes later. Well, what do you want? Well, you ready to go back? Yeah, I'm ready to go back. So we get on the bus, taking us back down to the Palais. And she's sitting next to the window and seat, and I'm sitting on the aisle seat. Now, I have to backtrack a little and give you some background. Before I left to Cannes for that year, about 3 or 4 months before then, I had read a book that was written by Gary Kinder, and it was called Light Years.
Oh, right. I think I have that book, actually.
And it was an update on the Pleiadian case, first reported on in the United States by Wendell Stevens. Yeah. Okay? Now, in this book, he talked about what really happened with the case, about how the case was killed in the United States by APRO and NICAP. And I was a member of both of those organizations.
Can you just tell us what they are for
well,
the viewers?
They were the first nationwide organizations where people could give membership support and get information about what is going on in ufology. The summons, here's the bottom line of the story. Both of these organizations heard about the Billy Meier case almost simultaneously, within 24 hours of each other. And they both were organizations that were struggling to get membership, struggling to stay afloat financially, to continue doing the work that they were doing in telling people on a monthly basis via their newsletters what was happening in the UFO field.
Yes, we know that story.
So, they contacted Billy Meier, both organizations, and had extensive conversations with him about his case and what was happening.
And can you just give us just a couple of sentences about his case for those who won't know?
Oh, okay. Billy Meier was a one-armed Swiss caretaker slash farmer who was having regular, ongoing contact with ETs.
Yeah.
And this contact was documented with visual sightings, trace sightings, actual metals and things that are left over, and the most amazing photo and motion picture evidence
Yes.
that we have to date.
Yeah, I think that Wendell was involved in a lot of the analysis of the photographs as well, wasn't he?
He was. He was the prime investigator
Yeah.
from the United States that paid attention to the case and went over
Right.
and dug into it.
Yeah.
And people don't understand how incredible the case was. This case was so full of synergistic and virtually paranormal events
Yeah.
that happened not just to Meier throughout the whole thing, but they extended to the people that got close to him.
Yeah.
The stuff that happened with Wendell during his investigation Wendell didn't talk about it because he felt that it would take away from the reality of the case itself,
Yeah.
because it was such high strangeness. I mean, virtually paranormal magic was going on around this entire case all the time. So it was an amazing case. To this day, I say it's still the best case that we have out there, ever. So I read this book by Gary Kinder, and he told about how these organizations killed the case in the United States, at
Right.
least, by saying that it was all phony. And the reason that they said it was Meier agreed to have them over. His material was open to anyone that wanted to come and see it. They could investigate the sites, the photos, the motion picture film, the
Yeah.
witnesses, the physical evidence, etc., etc., etc.
Yes, he was very
open to-
cooperative, wasn't he?
Very
Yeah.
cooperative to anyone that really wanted to know the truth of it.
Yeah.
And so they said, we'll be there next week. We'll have our representative there.
Yeah.
But first we have to cable you our exclusivity agreement. And Meier said, wait a minute, what exclusivity agreement? Oh, we can't afford to take our limited resources and put them into the investigation of your case unless we have an exclusive on it. And Meier said, no, absolutely not. What's happening here is a story for the world. It's not exclusive to anyone. So each organization independently came to exactly the same conclusion. We have to torpedo this case in
Right.
case our competitive organization latches
Yeah.
onto it and agrees to this and reports it. We have to torpedo it first. So it was this intense competition and rivalry between these organizations that caused them to torpedo the Meier case. They did it in the worst possible way, the way that most torpedoing is still done in the whole field today, and that is an investigator from their armchair,
Yes.
sitting in their armchair, okay, proclamation, oh, that's phony, that's all wrong, that's not real, those people are $3 bills, etc., etc., etc. Still the way it's done today.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
to find out about 12 years later, right, that these organizations that I supported had done this, I was furious. Okay, number one. But more importantly, number two, after reading the book, I realized that this is a real case.
Yes.
A real
Indeed.
case.
Indeed.
And so night and day on my mind, the biggest question in my mind, I would go to sleep with this question on my mind. I would wake up with this question on my mind, right? Is the Meier case real? So in between the MIPCOM and the MIFED, the Milan Film Festival, which follows it, there's a 9-day window.
Right.
And so I said, I will rent a car and I'll drive to Switzerland. I'll see if I can find this place called Schmidt-Rudy.
Yes, yeah.
And I'll see if I can actually, do my own investigation of it. And maybe with some luck, I'll even get to meet Meier.
Yeah.
So this was on my mind, consuming me for 3.5, 4 months before going there. So now it's 2 days into the conference, and I'm left talking with this woman, right? So we're going back on the bus, driving back to the Palais. And so we're talking about what we're doing, and I said, hey, I'm showing a new film in 3 days in such and such time in theater so-and-so, and it's in 70 millimeter. It's a documentary on the SR-71 Blackbird. And
Right.
she says, oh, I'd love to go see that film. She says, but I won't be here because I have to leave day after tomorrow. I have to meet my film crew, and I'm going to do a story on whether the elephant is going to be declared an endangered species or not. And I'm going to meet the crew, and we're doing it from Switzerland, where they're making the announcement. So she says, Switzerland, right? What pops into my head? But what's been driving me crazy for 4 months? The truth of the Meier case, right? So I said to her, never expecting an answer, really, you know. I said, well, that's in Switzerland. I said, does the name Edward Billy Meier mean anything to you? Oh,
Long
my God.
shot.
Oh, my gosh. She melted up against the window, and she screamed at me, who the hell are you? How do you know Edward Billy Meier? Are you NSA? Are you CIA? You know, so, I mean, I was just overwhelmed, and so I just was calm, and I said, no, I said, I'm who I told you I was. I do documentary films. I deal in them, I work in them, and I read this book, Light Years, and I just was thinking about trying to get in my own mind, to the truth of this, in between the two conventions. So she says, you really aren't NSA, you really aren't you really aren't Air Force Special Services, you aren't no, I'm not any of those things. I'm who I am. I'm Bob Brown. And she said, okay, she says, we got to talk. She says, can you come to my hotel with me? I says, well, yeah, I can. So I go to her hotel, she checks her messages, and takes her 10 minutes, and she comes down. She says, okay, I'm free. So we walk out along the Mediterranean, we find this little all-night bar cafe, and we're sitting out there, and we sat down, and we commenced to have this incredible talk about UFOs, and about paranormal, and about Edward Billy Meier.
Right.
Because it turns out that she herself had been there, not, more than once.
Oh, what, to meet to Shmuti?
Yes,
Is that the right
yes.
phrasing? Yeah.
And so she herself had done all the things that I wanted to do, right? And the only bad thing from that meeting was that she did kind of discourage me from going on my own. She said, he'll be very happy to meet you and see with you and talk with you, but you got to write him first. You've got to tell him you're going to come. You've got to get like an invitation, because if you just show up, it's not going to be good. Okay? And so I did let her convince me to do that part of it. But it turned out that short of meeting Wendell right then, at that time, and I hadn't met Wendell yet at this time.
Okay.
So short of meeting Wendell or Billy Meier himself, she was probably the best person in the entire world that I could have met at that moment in time to talk about with the Billy Meier case. Right?
Prompted by your voice.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so, do you have any idea who this woman was?
No, do tell.
No idea?
No.
Okay. Her name was Linda Moulton Howe.
Okay. Okay.
She had just finished her first big coffee table book on cattle mutilations
Oh, sure.
at that time. So that was when I first met her. And so what I'm saying is that I'm easy, because when I got back, I said, this is all just unbelievable, right? Remember, a voice talked in my head. Now, I don't know the last time you've had a voice talk in your head.
Hasn't happened yet.
And lead you to exactly who you need to be led to in the entire world, right?
Yeah.
At that moment of your life, okay? So I said, wow, I'm making documentary films, okay? Maybe I need to make a documentary film on the UFO phenomena. So that's what ended up happening. During the next year and a half, I spent a year crisscrossing the United States with a partner, Ted Oliphant, and we made a documentary called UFOs: A Need to Know. It was a feature length, finished out at 93 minutes, and to this day I think it's one of the greatest introductory kinds of things that's been done
Yes.
in the field. And so all of that was due to this. Now, I said that we have to start at the beginning when I was a kid. Well, look, from the time that I was a kid, I had interest in these subjects, okay? And my interest, waned and grew and waned and grew, throughout my life. But it was always there, and this just jump-started me.
Yeah.
It kicked me in the ass, and it said, hey, you are supposed to be doing something, right? So in the process of making the documentary, and in the process of crisscrossing the country, we went to all of the UFO conferences that there were to go to at that time.
Okay.
And universally, all of them, in my humble opinion, were being done, most of them for the wrong reasons, in the wrong way. And at the end of it all, I said, it can be done better.
Yeah.
It can be done better. It can be done with respect for the person that's trying to come there and get information, which means that you don't do it as a dog and pony show.
Yeah.
You don't have 5 speakers speaking in front of each other in 5 different lecture halls, right? Where you have to get an ulcer trying to figure out who you want to hear, right? You don't charge exorbitant prices because you're not doing this to make money, okay? You're doing this to give the presenters, the researchers, the speakers a platform which is respectful and which is for them alone. When the curtain goes up and they're making their information available, that is whose information is being available at that time, not 6 other people's competing. Okay, not what it was about. So we structured the International UFO Congress. First of all, it was designed to be a week-long event. People said, Bob, you're crazy. You can't do a week-long event, right? Well, turns out you can.
You definitely can.
Turns out you can. And so, long story short, I think that over the 20 years that we did the conferences, we did 24 conferences over 20 years, and I think that we've basically proved all the naysayers wrong.
Yeah, I think you did. And I think you've left us a fantastic legacy, which is continued here with open minds. And, we can't thank you enough.
Well, yes, it's been a great journey.
Yeah.
It's a great journey.
Yeah.
And for those people that are getting ready to make the journey, there's nothing else in your life that you can ever spend your time and your energy trying to get to the bottom of than the reality that we are not alone.
And that is exactly what Bob Dean said, whom we've just spoken to as well, and I think it's the most important thing that humanity can focus on.
Indeed it is.
Bob Brown.
Well, thank you for spending some time.
That's great, and thank you for that story. Absolutely fantastic, and thanks again for your wonderful contribution to this field and to all of our education.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Miles. Another one. It's a wrap for a mash in America at Arizona with Bob Brown.